So I think we've all experienced cake face at one point or other. If you wear foundation, you have definitely had your foundation looking cakey. And by cakey, I just mean it looks heavy, it looks splotchy, it doesn't look well blended even if you've actually taken time to blend it. And then it just looks like you've put a mask on, so it doesn't really look skin like. So that is what cakey foundation is. Unless you're perfect, you've definitely experienced cake face. I have experienced my fair share of cakey foundation. Wow. I've had cakey foundation so many times, and I guess it's because of that I've gotten some tips and tricks or hacks, whatever you want to call it, over the years that I want to pass on to you guys, so that you make sure you never have another day with cakey foundation. Now, if you have skin like this one of mine, acne, if you have a lot of texture, so your skin is really rough, then you definitely need to follow this. Well, no, you don't need to. If you want to, you can follow them, but they'll help you, because people with acne and pimples and textured skin tend to get more cake face than people who have just, nice flawless skin. Even if just because you have flawless skin doesn't mean you can't get cakey foundation. You can. I'm just saying, if you have pimples, acne, textured skin, like I have said, it just means you're more likely to get cake face. So you really need to just take time on your foundation to make sure it really sinks into the skin. So let's go ahead and get started. So number one has to do with the skin itself. If you have good skin, flawless skin, you'll definitely get a more flawless foundation finish. That is not to say that people like us with acne and textured skin can't get a flawless face. We still can, but you need to take care of your skin. Everyone, whether you have flawless skin, whether you have acne, whether you have texture, what you do, the steps you take before putting on that makeup are really important, and they'll make or break your foundation. So I'm talking about just having some sort of a regimen. You clean your face, you moisturize your face, at least those two things. You definitely need to be doing that. And then something else that could be making your foundation cakey is that you never ever exfoliate, because of course a lot of dirt and dead skin cells especially accumulate on the skin. So now when you put foundation over that, it doesn't mesh with the skin the way it should and give you just this skin-like look, because it's being stopped by these dead skin cells. So for you to get that nice flawless foundation that looks like skin, and you get those compliments of, gosh, your skin is glowing, then you definitely need to exfoliate at least once a week. The next thing in skincare, especially before you apply your foundation, that I feel you should never ever skip is moisturizing. You should moisturize your skin, in fact, and then give it 10 minutes to sink into the skin before now you go in with your makeup. If you don't moisturize, whether you have dry skin or oily skin, there are moisturizers for all skin types. Skin types. And you need to get yourself one. So now we can get into the actual foundation application. You can start with a primer, but if you don't have one, your moisturizer can act as your primer. The first tip I have, always go in light with your foundation. You don't want to go in heavy. You don't want to just go in and slather on the foundation just at once. I know sometimes you have a lot to cover, so you might need to go in with 2 layers or 3 layers, but don't feel like you need to just lay it on thick the first time. Build up the foundation. The minute you just put on one heavy layer is the same minute your foundation is going to look cakey. So let's do this. So usually what I will do is I use 2 tools when I am applying my foundation. I use a brush. This is just a flat brush, and then I use a sponge. I would highly recommend, if you don't get any other tool for your foundation, that you at least get a sponge. These are not at all expensive. You don't have to get an original beauty blender. You can just use any beauty sponge. Well, not any, a good one that when you squeeze like this, you feel it's soft and it grows when you spray some water on it. So I usually use the brush kind of just to spread out the foundation, and then I go in with the sponge to really now blend out the foundation. So let's go ahead and get started. Wait, I haven't primed. Really? How am I gonna do this now? Wow. I'm just gonna prime all the areas I haven't dotted foundation. Don't forget to prime like me, you guys. Okay, this is a bit difficult. I'm just going to blend it with the rest of the foundation. So I'm kind of just spreading out my first layer of foundation. So that is layer 1 on. Like I said, very light. It's covered up a lot, but not enough. So now I'm going to just blend that out with my sponge, and usually I like to spray it with some setting spray, just for it to work the way it should. You can simply just run this through water and it'll work the same. And I'm just going to go blending. You need to use a good amount of pressure when you're pressing your sponge in. Don't just do something light. You need to use a good amount of pressure when you're blending out your foundation. Also, don't rub. Because you're just gonna rub off your foundation. So you really just want to use a good amount of pressure, like I have said over and over, just to blend out your foundation. So I watched a video of Wayne Goss, and he was saying that he spends at least 6 minutes blending out foundation on his clients. 6 minutes. He says blending is the key, and I agree with him. Like, if people are out here spending 6 minutes blending foundation, then it means you need to take your time on it. Take your time, Okay, so now I'm going to go in with my second layer and just follow the same steps that I have followed. So there we have on layer 2. There's still a few areas that now I'm going to go address. So rather than put a whole third layer, I'm just going to add a bit of foundation. Again, work with thin layers just on areas where I want a bit more coverage, where I have a bit more acne scarring, like my cheek area and my forehead area. So same steps, just like targeting the foundation in those areas. Little amounts, guys. Little goes a long way. Okay, so that is now my third layer, which I've targeted on the areas I want, and I'm pretty happy with the coverage at this point. Now I'm going to give you guys another hack that I've picked up. So first, you need a piece of tissue. I've just separated this tissue so that it's just one ply. You can just like dab this on your skin directly, or alternatively, you can wrap your beauty blender around it like that and kind of just blend your foundation out one more time. It just picks up really any excess product that hasn't really like sunk into the skin, so it'll help not to make your foundation cakey. So now the next thing I'm going to do is conceal under my eyes and all the other areas I usually conceal, and I'm going to blend it out the same way I have blended out my foundation, taking my time, using my sponge, and just really going in there to make sure the concealer also kind of sinks into the skin and doesn't look fake. Same sponge, same technique, just really blending and getting in there, taking my time. 6 minutes. If it's gonna take me 6 minutes, I will blend for 6 minutes. Now I will go over that concealer with my tissue here to absorb any excess. So now let's get into setting. Of course, you have to set your concealer, but sometimes I know when you put setting powders, you can feel like your face looks cakey, like you could have done your foundation really well, and then the thing that makes you cakey is your powder. A really good tip that I would give you is to use a sponge to set your concealer. Use a sponge because it's going to press your powder into your skin. So your powder is not just going to sit on top, because when it sits on top, it gets cakey. You start looking like you have dry patches, and nobody wants that. So I would say use a sponge. I actually bought this sponge in Dubai. I think it was only 50 shillings, and it's so soft and it takes so well to water. Like it grows a little bit when I spray some water on it. So this is what I usually use to apply my setting powder, and I just press it into my skin. So I'm just going to let this bake for 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Another reason why your foundation could be looking hella cakey is that you overbake. So you shouldn't bake for too long. 2 minutes is good enough. 3 minutes, that's like the maximum. If you go above that, then you'll get some dry patches. Your foundation will look patchy and splotchy, and you don't want that. So 2 minutes, maximum 3 minutes. And while my face is baking, I want to say something about the tools that you're using for your foundation. You need to make sure that they're clean, especially a brush, because if you don't wash your brush for many weeks, a lot of foundation builds up on your brush, and then when you go in to apply a nice new fresh coat, it becomes splotchy, it becomes streaky, it doesn't blend well, and then it ends up looking cakey. So, and same thing actually goes for the sponge. You need to make sure your sponge is clean, because it's soaking up a lot of excess product. So if it's dirty, then you're just mixing a product from 5 weeks ago with the fresh product you're putting on, and it's just not going to look good. So you need to wash your brushes. Just try at least once in every 2 weeks. Now let's also talk about setting the rest of the face, because again, you're using a powder, and like I said, powders can contribute to the cakiness of powders can contribute to the cakiness of your foundation. So you're using a brush. Alternatively, you could still go in with a sponge, but ideally what you want to make sure you're doing is pressing your foundation into your skin. Basically, the tip you should you should take away from this video is press product into your skin so that it kind of meshes into your skin and looks very, very skin-like. So you always have to tap off the excess, because again, putting on too much powder, you'll be looking cakey. You'll have cake face. So just take a little at a time, and what you want to do is just press it into the skin. So at this point, we have now our really, really good base. The last thing I would definitely recommend is that you get yourself a setting spray. It doesn't matter what setting spray you use. Actually, you can even use just a little spritz of water, plain water, or some rose water. So what your setting spray, your rose water, or even just a little spritz of plain water will do is that it'll make sure your powder, your foundation, and your skin just all become one. So that's what I have for you guys today, and I hope you enjoyed. My face really looks flawless. I wish you guys could see it in person to see that my makeup does not look overdone. It looks really just fresh and flawless and nice. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Please, of course, as usual, add your tips in the comments, because I'm trying, people have their own way of doing things. So if you have some tips that really work for you when it comes to making sure your foundation doesn't get cakey, please leave them down below for me, and all the other people who are going to be reading the comments as they're watching the video. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.